Top of the SportsMax Zone for this Thursday. Kicking off with football, head coach of Jamaica's national women's team, Hubert Bubsy Jr, has been accused of sexual misconduct. According to the Guardian newspaper, Mallory Enoch is saying that during Busby's tenure as coach of the Canadian team, the Vancouver Whitecaps, between 2010 and 2011, Bubsy Jr. used his position as coach to solicit sex from her. Enoch was at the time a forward. He was recruiting to play for the team. Canada-born Bubsy Jr. has strongly denied the allegations. Undoubtedly, this issue has far-reaching implications for the Jamaica national women's team. The local governing body in Kingston, the Jamaica Football Federation, in a brief statement issued earlier on Thursday, had this to say. The JFF is aware of allegations surrounding national women's team head coach Hubert Bubsy. The executive of the JFF will convene next Tuesday to discuss the matter with Mr. Bubsy. So that's a very, very disturbing story. As we said in our presentation just now, he has denied these allegations. So there are a lot of investigations and inquiries to come on this matter. I wonder about the JFF release, though, Chris Taylor. They'll convene on Tuesday to address this issue. It does appear to be an urgent matter that one could have expected that they would deal with it a little bit more promptly than next week, Tuesday.
Yeah, I just wonder if is there a need to do further investigation. That's what it lends to believe, that obviously the JFF might not have all the information where they would want it at this point, and so want to, do some investigation, get some more behind-the-scenes information before they, actually have an official meeting with Hubert.
Yeah, you know what? A lot has been happening in women's football in the USA recently, and a lot of similar allegations coming out. Now, these allegations would have been addressing issues from 2010, 2011, which is 10 years ago. But in many of these instances, the women feel a lot more empowered now to say something, given what has happened elsewhere.
Very unfortunate. We only hope that this is not true. But it's a very ticklish dynamic, as we like to call it, in terms of how that male-female relationship between coach and player. I myself, coached tennis for many years and had a situation where I was coaching at an all-girls school. And I mean, that in itself is something that you have to manage well and so on. There will always be attractions between male and female, no matter the level and so on as well. So it's always something that you have to be aware of, especially when you're in the coach's seat. I would like to hope that, as the statement said, that positions that she might have been promised or so on, or accommodations on certain sides, wasn't used as a holding force to what could I say, go about the attraction. Yeah, that's the only part.
Yeah, you know what? I read the detailed report in the Guardian newspaper, and she was very explicit in a lot of the instances and interactions that she spoke of, and she did say that on many of the occasions when he, as far as she was concerned, inappropriately invited her to be in his company, right, he did not, on most of those occasions, do anything physically that got her, alarmed. But there was one instance where she said he did that. But I just wanted the story to come out that she did mention several instances where he would have invited her to dinner or invited her to be on a trip with him to go to another state, on football matters, which she found a little uncomfortable. But on most of those instances, outside of one instance, there was no actual physical discomfort that she felt because of his advances.
Yeah, as I said, very ticklish position for him to be in. I mean, the fact that, as you said, that he would invite her, or say, for example, that a match would have been happening and it didn't happen, doesn't give a good reflection, doesn't look good on him, for example. But I certainly agree with you where she mentioned maybe 4 or 5 occasions, and in only one instance out of those 5 did she mention that there was anything physical. So obviously, other than that, even though there were situations where they were together in the same room, as she mentioned, for even days or so on, nothing seemed to have happened physically, but she was uncomfortable based on the scenario, and she thought it was inappropriate.
Yeah, there was one story she gave to where she was invited to some dinner or some something happening, and she didn't expect that it would have been he alone. He somehow, as far as she is concerned, gave the impression that there would have been others there, and she was a little taken aback when she got there to see that it was just herself and himself. Now, to be honest, we have not heard, apart from his denying the allegations, anything explicit coming from him. All of the reports and the charges and the accusations in the Guardian newspaper story came from her. So we have heard everything about what she has to say, nothing yet from Coach Busby. And as I said, we are sitting in a position now where it is obvious that this, even though it happened 10 years ago, that it will be thoroughly investigated and inquiries will now happen. He has a lot of questions to answer, and we just hope from his standpoint that he is on solid ground if he says he denies all these allegations, because these are very ticklish situations. And I would suggest that even if he comes out clean on this, his image has already been tarnished by this story, because every time you see him now, every time you think about him now, you will think about what the player said about him and the accusations, whether he's guilty or not.
And Lance, there have been many situations over the history of time that have shown that boundaries have been crossed, whether from the coaching side or from the student side, whether it is a case where the student is attracted to the coach and tries to use whatever means of attraction to get that, or from the coach's side where they unfortunately fall to the boundary that should be there between them and a student. And as you said, these things happen, so we just have to hope from his standpoint that the allegations are not as thorough or deep as they appear.
Yeah, and Paul Riley, the coach of the North Carolina Courage, was fired last week because of sexual misconduct allegations, and certainly the way that story panned out, it does suggest that he was guilty of a lot of the allegations. But this happened recently, and what we have been hearing in recent weeks is that the women have felt that these issues have been on the table for a very, very long time. They've been putting up with it for a long time. And as I said, in instances like these, some of the women who may have encountered problems even many, many years ago may now, because of the current climate, feel a little bit more empowered to come out and say what has been bugging them for so long. But as we said, the coach has denied these allegations. There are a lot of steps to take between now and when any sort of decision is made regarding his coaching status in the United States or Canada, where he has plied his trade most. He was born in Canada, but I think he has Jamaican roots, and he was employed as the Jamaica head coach a couple of years ago. So that's a story from Hubert Bubsy facing allegations of sexual misconduct from a former player.
Yeah, and Lance, from her statement and other females' statement who have been faced with this situation, you get the impression that the issue was not really the fact that necessarily there was an attraction from the coaching side. I think that is somewhat expected in that kind of domain. But I think the problem that they have is when positions or opportunities are being used as a wager. And I think that's where the problem is. For example, she did mention that maybe an advance was made and she said that she was not interested, for example. So I think there's an expectation, both from a male and female side, that natural attractions will happen in that field. So there's nothing wrong with, stating your attraction and so on. But however, the fact of an opportunity being used as a wager, I think that's where the problem is. Because
he is the coach and because she has a supervisory position over her status and her future as a player.